They said it could never happen. That Burkina Faso, one of the poorest countries in the world, would always remain in the West's shadow, chained by debt, aid, and dependency. But in 2025, a secret deal surfaced. A deal not signed in Washington, not stamped in Paris, but forged in Beijing. And the man behind it? Ibrahim Traoré, the young captain who has become the face of Africa's defiance. This wasn't just an agreement. It was a thunderclap across the global stage. Because for the first time, Burkina Faso was no longer asking for permission. It was rewriting the rules. And the West? Stunned, furious, and desperate to know what's really behind this deal. It began not with a press conference, but with whispers. A plane carrying senior Burkinabe officials landed quietly in Beijing under the cover of night. No media, no public schedule, only encrypted lines and handshakes behind closed doors. Weeks later, the leaks began. A joint infrastructure and resource partnership worth billions. China would build railways, solar farms, and digital banking corridors in Burkina Faso. In exchange, Ouagadougou would grant Beijing access to strategic mining concessions and agricultural zones. On paper, it looked like another development agreement. But analysts saw something far bigger. This wasn't charity. This was sovereignty. For decades, Burkina Faso's gold and cotton flowed outward, while its people remained poor. The West called it trade. Traoré called it theft. Now, with China at the table, the script had flipped. Why did this deal send shockwaves through Washington, Paris, and Brussels? Because it struck at the very heart of Western influence in Africa. For years, France held Burkina Faso in its orbit. French troops guarded its bases. French companies extracted its gold. French banks held its currency hostage through the CFA franc. But Traoré ripped up that script. He expelled French troops. He questioned the CFA franc. He called out Western hypocrisy on global stages. And now he had done the unthinkable. He invited China into the core of his nation's development. To the West, this wasn't just economics. It was betrayal. Because once a country steps into Beijing's orbit, it rarely comes back. At the center of this deal lies a battlefield of resources. Burkina Faso may look poor on paper, but beneath its soil lies one of Africa's richest gold belts. Lithium, manganese, uranium, all critical for the 21st century economy, buried in its red earth. For years, Western corporations dominated these mines. But Traoré has been tearing up contracts, forcing renegotiations, and demanding that wealth benefit Burkinabe citizens. The Chinese deal changes the equation. Instead of selling raw gold and lithium cheaply to Europe, Burkina Faso gains infrastructure in return. Railways, refineries, processing plants. It's not just extraction, it's transformation. That's why the West panicked. Because control over African resources isn't just about profit. It's about power. And Traoré just handed that power to a new player. But the deal goes beyond minerals. China has pledged to invest in large-scale irrigation systems, seed technology, and solar power grids across Burkina Faso. Why does this matter? Because food and energy are the pressure points the West has long used to discipline African nations. Cut off fuel supplies, and economies collapse. Manipulate food imports and governments fall. Traoré knows this history well. He's watched Western sanctions starve nations into submission. And now, by tying Burkina Faso's food security and electricity to Chinese technology, not Western charity, he's building an escape hatch. This is why commentators call it a shield deal. Not just trade, but protection against economic warfare. But make no mistake, this deal is about more than railways and silos. It's about symbolism. Every handshake in Beijing was a dagger in Paris. Every contract signed was a signal to Washington. Burkina Faso is no longer your pawn. When Traoré stood on television, holding a stalk of millet, and declared, "Food is freedom," he wasn't just speaking to Burkinabe farmers. He was speaking to the entire continent. And when he chose Beijing over Brussels, he wasn't just buying infrastructure. He was buying time, leverage, and dignity. Of course, the West didn't stay silent. Almost overnight, think tanks in Europe began publishing reports painting Traoré as reckless, dangerous, authoritarian. Media outlets warned of Chinese debt traps, Washington insiders leaked rumors of sanctions. Behind the scenes, Western banks delayed Burkina Faso's transactions. Aid projects were quietly suspended. Intelligence services whispered about destabilization. The message was clear. Traoré had crossed a line. But the young captain did not back down. Instead, he doubled down, signing joint military cooperation frameworks with Mali and Niger, deepening the new Sahel alliance, and declaring openly, "We will not bow." Why is China willing to take the risk? Because Beijing sees in Traoré more than just a partner. They see a symbol of Africa's shifting tides. For China, Africa is not a side project. It is the future of global trade. The Belt and Road Initiative has already built ports in Kenya, railways in Ethiopia, highways in Nigeria. Now, with Burkina Faso, China extends its influence into the Sahel, a region the West once considered its private chessboard. Critics warn, China seeks domination, not partnership. But in the eyes of many Africans, Beijing's bulldozers build faster than Washington's promises. And Traoré knows, in a world where survival depends on speed, promises do not feed children. Infrastructure does. Perhaps the most important part of this deal isn't in Beijing or Washington. It's in Africa itself. Across the continent, leaders are watching. From Bamako to Niamey, from Kinshasa to Harare. Traoré's defiance sparks questions. If Burkina Faso can break free from Western dictates, why not us? Students in Ghana chant his name. Farmers in Tanzania share his speeches. Activists in South Africa call him the son of Sankara. This is the real danger for the West. Not just losing Burkina Faso, but losing Africa's fear. So, what's really behind Traoré's deal with China? It's not just about railways, or food, or gold. It's about rewriting the rules of power. For centuries, Africa's resources fueled Western wealth, while its people lived in poverty. Now, one of the youngest leaders in the world is saying no more. By turning to China, Traoré is betting on a multipolar world, where no single empire holds all the keys, where Burkina Faso is not a pawn, but a player. And that's what truly stuns the West. Not the contracts, not the numbers, but the realization that Africa is slipping out of their hands. Will this gamble succeed? No one knows. Debt traps are real. Geopolitical games are ruthless. And Traoré is surrounded by enemies, at home and abroad. But one truth remains undeniable. He has already shifted the conversation. Burkina Faso, once dismissed as a poor, landlocked country, now sits at the heart of global debate. And its leader, Ibrahim Traoré, has forced the world to ask, what happens when Africa stops bowing? The West called him reckless. His people call him courageous. And history is still deciding. But one thing is certain. With every deal, every speech, every act of defiance, Traoré is proving that Africa's future will not be written in Paris or Washington. It will be written in Ouagadougou. And this time, the world is watching. Backhand index pointing right if you believe Africa deserves sovereignty. Smash the like button. Speech balloon, comment your thoughts below. Is Traoré a visionary? Or is he playing with fire? Bell, and don't forget to subscribe. Because on this channel, we reveal the hidden truths behind the headlines. Stay awake. Stay informed. Stay unstoppable.